Morning everyone, my name's Phil Tricky and I'm obviously on the Andrew Huang training course, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. I thought some of you might appreciate just a little video as to how I've gone about putting my track together. There might be a few snippets in there that are useful. So I thought I'd do this video and I'll try and upload it onto the training portal a bit later on today. So here's my project window. I work in Cubase. I have done ever since it was Steinberg Pro 24 back in the 80s, giving away my age there. But I just thought I'd talk through the structure and some of the things that I've set up and how I've gone about putting the track together. So you can see that I've got a folder, overarching folder that has everything in it. So you can see these are the different colors of the tracks. And I do that for a very specific reason, and it enables me to cut in Cubase different sections of the track and rearrange them very, very easily. It just takes, that is all of the tracks within that particular section of the song, and I can just move them around wherever I want to very easily. So let's just move that back where it was. Up here you can see I've got the structure of the song, and these I will be labeling. I've decided that this is not going to be an instrumental. I think it could do with some lyrics and a melody, which is why some of you said it gets a bit repetitive, but that's because I plan on putting a vocal track in there. So there is a concept of kind of verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus, I think is the way I've done it. I've also got up here, you can see the chords that I use in each section. Cubase makes really good use of these. You can use it for automatically adding vocal harmonies, for example, but also it's great for helping you think about different chords. You can edit the chords to be whatever you want, or just play them in on your MIDI keyboard, and you can use things like the chord assist to help you think about, this is the circle of fifths, other chords that might go with it. So it's quite good from a songwriting perspective. If I open up some of the tracks, so if we just go into the synths, for example, if I were to grab these chords down onto a MIDI or instrument track, it actually just converts it into MIDI, which I can then edit. So it's a very quick way of being able to play different instruments across different tracks. So the way I structure it is, I think the opposite way around to Andrew. I have my drums at the bottom and they're always red, bass, slightly lighter color, so orange, synths, and then vocals. Here I've just got vocal chops and risers, but I put my vocals at the top. So that's the structure. So if we look at the drums, here I've got a number of drum tracks, and I have been particularly lazy. I use a product called XO. I got that set up. Yeah, you can see it down here. Some of you might have seen this. It's a great way of organizing all of your samples. These are all of the samples on my computer, and I can walk through and find particular types of sample, particular frequencies, particular actual percussion sounds, and then you can edit and program your drum track from here, and you can then export that as audio or MIDI. So it's a fantastic plugin for working with, in particular, drum samples. So I've used that, and I've been a bit lazy in just taking the audio out for kick, snare, and hats all in one. Obviously, if I were to mix this and release it professionally, then I would separate those out to give me more control over those samples. So I've got two drum tracks of kick, snare, and hi-hats. I've got percussive loop, and I've got some claps, lots of claps. This is a sample from Last Night a DJ Saved My Life. Some of you may be old enough to remember that. I just love that particular reverse clap, so you can see that coming in into the choruses, and also then some snaps, Ariana Grande, and layered with another snap with some reverb on. Bit of automation on the claps just for adding reverb in. So the drum track, if we just perhaps pick, hear that reverse snare. So that's the drums. Kept it pretty simple. Then the bass, I've got 3 bass lines again. I'm using a VST called Avenger. Fantastic synthesizer, highly recommend it if you're into synths. Does everything, does absolutely everything. Fantastic presets as starting points, and you can get some really great sounds out of it. So I've got a couple of bass lines layered just at the chorus, and then I've got, you may be able to see some of my studio. I've got quite a lot of hardware. I'm a synthesizer fanatic. I love my synths, and I've got quite a lot of hardware synths which I use. This particular one is an Access. It's Access Virus TI, Total Integration. So it's just giving me a arpeggio. There we go. Quite simple, just to lift the second verse. So I've kept the bass quite simple. You can see that's all MIDI, just playing Avenger and the Virus. On the synths, quite a few synths on here, samples and synthesizers. So just a quick flavour of what's in there. So piano, that was Avenger as well, and then I layer that, the second part of the verse. And then this synth here, if I switch the pianos off, it will come in a sec, is my Roland V synth, which is just down here, hardware synthesizer I've had for a long time. Just love it. It's got some fantastic expressive sounds in it. And then I've got my favourite sound in the track, Avenger, with a bit of automation on delay, just for this build. So, and some of you are saying that pans a lot left and right. I actually quite like that, but it's, I guess, down to personal taste. So that's the ARP. And then down here, I'm using Gladiator, another VST, for the main theme. This is Gladiator. But I'm also using, if I just put that on repeat, I'm also using a plugin called Stutter 2. Some of you might have come across. So this just gives me, if I switch that on, let's come down here. If you listen to the M bit in particular, so great for adding stutters and effects. So quite powerful plugin. Then I got some plucks, of course, plucks. Let's just switch all of those on. You can have a listen. And then a sidechain distorted synth comes in here. That's actually a loop. I think I got it on Splice. I use Loopmaster and Splice as my source of samples. And then this is Arcade, another VST. So those are the synths. Spinny wheel, right. So then finally I've got lots of risers and vocal chops. So if we just played the build up, you get a flavour for what's in there. That's a sample there. So quite a few different effects that I've put in there. So that's the way that the track is made up. So just play a little bit of that. is my mixer. You can see the different tracks. So I thought you might like to see as well what I put on the master. So I'm still mixing at the moment. So I use a few different plugins here. Some are quite subtle, although they can be quite extreme. So these are new ones I've just started using by Mixroom, or Mixroom and Bassroom. So Bassroom, if I just show you, if you listen to the bass end, I'll switch this off. That's off. It's all a little bit muddy. Switch it on and it just becomes a lot clearer. It's quite clever. You can actually put in reference styles or even reference tracks to try and to compare and use the different frequency range at the bottom end of those reference tracks. Similarly, Mixroom does something similar but at the higher frequencies. So again, if I run the track, that's without it. Bring it in. Without it. So I find those, you have to use them subtly, but they work quite well in the mix. Tonal Balance is an isotope plugin which I'm literally just using to look at the tonal balance. If I go back to the chorus, here this is trying to keep your frequencies within this range. So it's just a visual aid. I always obviously use your ears, but it's a visual aid to see if you're broadly correct. And again, on here you can actually add in reference tracks so you can compare it to other tracks. So I find that quite useful, just as a sanity check more than anything. And then at the moment I've just put a limiter on the end, just while I'm mixing, just a FabFilter limiter. And I just added that for uploading onto the portal. So that's the master, or that's the mix chain that I'm using. I'm very fortunate that I have UAD. So when I come to do the mastering, I can actually just bring up actually by vendor. So the UAD plugins, so I do have the plugins that Andrew's recommending for the mastering chain. So when I come to master this later on today, I'm going to just use exactly what he's done and see what it sounds like, because I've not used that particular chain before. Oh yeah, there's one other plugin down here called Sausage Fattener. I don't know whether any of you have come across that. So if we just run it, if I switch it off, and on, it's at 3%, so it's quite subtle. But if I, so you have to be careful how you use it, but it adds quite a depth to the track. So I quite like using that. So anyway, yeah, that's where I've got to so far. Today is about doing a bit more on the mixing. I'm not going to do any more on the arrangement because I do want to add some vocals to it, because I quite like where this is heading. But I will master this using Andrew's chain, and I shall upload that later on today. Hopefully you found this useful, and I'll try and do some others as I'm going along. If people find them useful, let me know, and I'll keep posting my journey. But it's lovely to virtually meet you all, and I shall see you online.